Hi, and welcome to Real Trail Talk. I'm Donovan D'Souza from The Long Ways Better.
And I'm Mark Pybus from The Life of Pi. Welcome to episode 54. We are reunited again because you've been away for a little while, Don.
5 weeks.
Yep. So we saved this podcast when you're back because you weren't quite finished with your adventuring for the year.
Yeah, and also I think I had a bit of a not so exciting springtime, and then Christmas, I guess, really ramped up the ending for 2019.
Yeah. So we have our year in review podcast for 2019 where we look back at what we've done, where we've been, what we've hiked, and have a little discussion on that. So after a big 2018, 2019 for me was always going to be another big year, and I know you, Don, had plenty planned. Did it go the way you expected it to?
No, it didn't. Not that I had a bad year. I mean, I think it was going to be a very big challenge to top 2018, which I think still remains my greatest year of adventure ever. But it was a bit of a weird one. I didn't really do as much in the way of multi-days this year. Like, really up until the very end, in December, the most I did were overnights. I did 4 overnights, and we didn't do a September hike. We actually didn't, normally it's every quarter we do one, and that month wasn't filled. And then also in July, what we've done wasn't initially what I planned to do. So yes, it was very unusual this year.
Yeah. Well, I guess we better start at the beginning. So final 2 months of summer, kind of a lull in Perth hiking.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, you get to escape every second week. Where did you get up to in the summer?
So we come back from Tassie from the previous year when we finished on Frenchman's Cap. So whenever we do that, and Alyssa's with me, we try to do something. So we went up to Bright, and we did some walks in Mount Buffalo. So we did the Euribon Falls, which is a short walk. Just about 3 Ks now. It's a tour lookout. You see a waterfall. This is nice. You come back. That was just something that was nice to see. But the main one we did there was the Mount Buffalo circuit, which was across the Alpine area at the top. Yeah. Nice walk. It was a bit hot that day, but at least it wasn't on fire. Like this area, I believe, is at the moment or has been in recent times. Yeah. So, I mean, I did see that Bright was under threat. I don't know what's happened at the moment, but it could well be that area isn't suitable for very much at the moment. So yeah, that was that. And then for the rest of summer, we tried to make use of what we had in Perth. So a lot of that was shorter coastal walks. So we did the 3 Bays walkway in Greenhead, which is, it's a nice coastal walk. Very similar to what you see in Rottnest. Very, very hot when we did it. It was over the Australia Day weekend. We did the Penguin Island Boardwalk Trail with you.
Yes.
That was fun. We were looking at other things other than hiking. So we did some kayaking and some snorkeling around that area. And one of the days we did Penguin Island. And then we did the Bunker Bay Loop, which is something you did a few years ago.
Yes.
And we decided to go check it out. So yeah, that was we managed to fit in a few, which I think for summer was a pretty good summer for us. Yeah, how about you, Mark?
For me, I didn't actually do a lot of hiking at all. So it was more like different trails. So you mentioned we went to Penguin Island. So that was the only trail on the website that I put up that actually involved walking. The other 2 that I put up were just snorkel trails on Rottnest Island. So I did Parker Point and Little Salmon Bay. So just fun summer stuff to do. I think by this point I was still processing Tasmania pictures.
Yep.
So that kept me busy. And I was also doing a website redesign at the same time. As you do.
Summer's normally kind of good for that if you don't have that much to write about.
Yeah, but it's kind of the off-season for hiking in WA, so whatever you post, no one reads, so it's kind of like you're doing it just for your own pleasure.
But I remember us talking about that like throughout summer. It's like, oh wow, no one is reading anything at the moment.
Although this year it's actually picked up.
Me too.
I think because there's a lot of snorkel trails on there, and I know people just want to get out.
Yep.
But yeah, so it was a very quiet summer. It's more like I enjoy having time off away from hiking. I think if I did it all year round, I'd get pretty tired of it. But I guess I'll never know because we don't have the climate in WA for it.
I think because I despise hot weather, I hate it, and I resent the fact that I can't do hiking. So that to me is, I think, that's my view of like February, March, January. You know, that first 3-4 months of the year are a write-off for hiking. And then right up until June, yes, you can hike, but it's a bit ugly.
Yeah.
That's the curse of a Mediterranean climate, I guess.
Yeah, and I suppose the last 2-3 autumns have been pretty dry, so
Yeah.
we haven't really got into winter as early as we'd like. So yeah, autumn. How was that for you?
Fantastic.
Fantastic?
Yeah, this is probably my busiest quarter, I think. We ended up doing a fair bit, so I had to do 2 weeks in Melbourne, so I went to the Otways and did the Canyon and Phantom Falls, which is a loop there. Very dry. Phantom Falls was a cliff with no water.
No.
But, you know, very much, if you like Karri Forest, it's mountain ash and rainforest, so very lush and reminded me of home. And I did Werribee Gorge, which you've done as well.
Yes.
And that was awesome. You know, that I think is a kind of walk that looks okay in the autumn.
Yeah, I did it just after Christmas and it still looked pretty good.
Yeah. So I did that. And then we did, back in WA, we did a few... So trying to avoid the heat, we did some caves in Margaret River. We did 2 that I've never done before, which was Giants and Calgada, which are the DBCA run ones. And they're a bit more of a wild cave experience. So that was really cool. Probably my biggest month, though, was April, because we ended up going to Cape Arid, Cape Legrand, and Fitzgerald River. And, you know, we've talked about these before, you know, and they're spectacular walks. I think Legrand Coastal Trail is one of the best hikes I did last year. It would easily be in my top 10 in Western Australia, probably in top 10 or top 20 in Australia, full stop. It is an adventurous, exciting trail and has just so much to see, and I feel like there's no compromise. You know, I often talk about how trails, I feel, are so compromised in Western Australia, and this was not at all compromised. It's like, oh, it's going to go here, it's going to go here, it's going to take you to this lookout point, and it's going to take you down into the bay. So yeah, I really love that walk, and I think it's one that everyone should go and do. And then I finished out the autumn by just doing some walk GPS walks, and they were nice. We did the ones that were sort of on the eastern side of the Darling Scarp, which are more Wandoo.
Yeah.
And those, you know, they look lovely any time of year, so
Yeah.
they were good. How about you, Mark?
Autumn was actually really quiet. So today when I went through the list of hikes I've done, I color-coded everything, and summer autumn just looked very, very bare.
Oh yeah, I can see your chart
Yeah.
there.
So I started off, I think it was coming back from Bunbury maybe on around Easter. I did the Jabbitch Trail in Wellington National Park. And I'm glad I did it then. So from what I've heard, it might be a little burnt at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was actually a very, very good trail. Yeah, Wellington National Park, a lot going for it and a lot being invested in it. So if you're out there, do that one. Especially if you're staying at Honeymoon Pool, it's a good there and back walk for something to do. And then we went off to Tasmania for the second time in 6 months to do Bay of Fires, which is not a walk you can do per se. You can link up to campsites, but it is the luxury Tassie Walking Co offer.
Yep.
That was a good glut hike.
Yeah.
Yeah, got perfect weather. That was actually over Easter, so it must have been before I went to Jabbitch. But yeah, highly recommend that one. Beautiful area. A lot different to what you'd imagine Tassie to be. So it's fairly dry, fairly warm. Beautiful beaches as well. Very much like the south of WA, that south coast, granite, white sands.
And this was a bit of a swap from what happened last year, because I went to Tassie at Easter, and then you went to Esperance.
Yeah.
And we had the opposite holidays.
Wonder what next year or this year will bring.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then on top of that, I did Cataract Gorge in Launceston, which is a cool little hike just out of the city, and the Wineglass Bay Loop at Freycinet, which I wanted to do Mount Amos, but the accommodation we booked was too far away, and I didn't get a chance to head back. But yeah, that one wasn't too bad. And then I think it would have been in May. I think it was election day, so your birthday. I started off, it was a really moody, foggy day in the hills, so I mapped out the Golden Helena Valley Loop there.
Yep.
That was a very, very enjoyable day. It didn't end very well.
Yeah, I was going to say that wasn't an enjoyable day for me, but...
But yeah, I had Mundaring Weir Hotel to myself because everyone was out voting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
that brings us to winter, which for me was super, super busy. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it was fairly busy. We tried to keep, going with things. I always try, once June comes, it's like that's the switch where we go really hard at the trails. So we started off by going to Pemberton, and we did the Beetle Up Loop, which I've done before, but I've never rode up. So trying to do stuff that we've maybe done before, but maybe it was pre-blogs. We did that. We did Lefroy Brook as well, which is again very lovely. And we did the Rocks Walk at Shannon, which is one that you and I have been wanting to do for years. And then it's like it was closed when you went. Yeah. It was closed when I wanted to do it. So that was nice to finally get that one done. Then we did the Wilmanbilia, which was quite a controversial episode, I think, that ruffled a few feathers.
Yeah.
A trail that I think has a lot of potential, but is not great at the moment due to how heavy-handed the prescribed burn was to the area.
Hopefully when they finish the second third or 2/3, it goes through a lot better territory.
Yeah, hopefully. And then July was a really big month, because that was when we went to Sydney and we did the Royal Coast Track, which is one of the classic multi-day, well, it's a 2-day hike in Sydney, and it's one that all the locals sort of see as a rite of passage. Fantastic walk. I think it's probably of the sort of 2-day walks that I've done, it's one that I think is very much worthy of being sort of a great walk. And we did the Gross Valley, which is in the Blue Mountains. Spectacular valley just off the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Unfortunately burnt by the fires.
Yeah, a theme that seems to be making its way into this pod.
Yes. I should add that had it not been so expensive, we would have done the Kangaroo Island Wilderness Trail. Won't be doing that for a decade, I think, because that's destroyed.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where I kind of feel like, oh, damn, I wish I'd done the Kangaroo Island Wilderness Trail, but then where I went was destroyed as well. So, I think this goes to show how bad the fires were.
I think at least with Kangaroo Island, a lot of what is good about the trail is mainly like the coastal sections.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not too much of it's a terrible thing that's happened, but it should recover a lot quicker than the Gross Valley, which is more forests and ancient trees and whatnot.
Yeah, and the other walk I was going to do this time of year was the Green Gully track. Yeah. Green Gully is also being destroyed apparently, or at least been affected. And they also raised the price. So had I known, maybe I would have done that. But then all 3 have been burnt. Yeah. So it was every single one of them would have been destroyed, basically.
Don't plan any hikes for 2020. Just go on a whim.
And while we were there, we did a few other things. Like we did the Lura Cascades, which is a fairly good tourist-friendly walk. We did Dry Canyon, which was sort of introduction to some of the canyons of the Blue Mountain, and I was hoping to go back, but the Wolgan Valley where these are have all been burnt, so it might be a few years before I head back to do some of these. And then on the way back we went to Victoria and did a few walks there, and when we came back it was just doing sort of low-key walks in WA, not a lot of them, and I think this is where things started to just kind of die down for me this year, as spring was probably my least exciting spring. But enough of me. Tell us about your winter.
My winter was jam-packed full of Bibbulmun track stuff. So there's a theme for me for the year. Is I calculated today I've put over 800 kilometers worth of trails onto the website this year, and a good proportion of that is Bibbulmun track. So finishing my sectional end to end, due to some of the trips I took last year, I then had to postpone sections of the trail. So yeah, it was just a lot of walking to get through. So I started off literally first day of winter, Northcliffe to Walpole, and it was 7 days. I enjoyed it, I think, a lot more than what you did. But we have a pod coming up on that. I did the Carmel walk, which you also didn't enjoy, but I thought was quite pleasant, mainly for the atmospheric conditions I had that morning.
I thought it was a good opportunity for me to find other ways of saying burnt. So it was enjoyable in a way.
Yeah, you definitely expanded your vocabulary on that one. Then we did the William Billier, as you said. I don't know, I really want that trail to be good, and I really hope when they finish the full loop that it is, like, it's worthy enough that people will consider doing that instead of the Bibbulmun out of town, which I think they might realign one day anyway. But yeah, fingers crossed they do well with that. And then I had an overnighter to patch up some holes for my Bibbulmun. So I did Mount Dale to Sullivan Rock with Aaron as well. That was a good bonding experience. And then July saw me go off to Darwin for a week. So it was my partner's grandmother's 90th. She always goes to Broome, and they figured, well, let's go to Darwin this year. So I did a few walks around town, which a bit hit and miss. One of them I actually have forgotten to write up.
Was that bad?
Yeah, well, it wasn't that bad. I think I got to the end of the post. I was just like, I'm done. Like, I just can't be bothered writing them up anymore. So yeah, look out for that one in 2020 sometime when I can get around to that. And we took a day trip to Litchfield as well, which was really, really good. To have that just an hour out of Darwin's pretty spectacular, even if the window for visiting is only a few months, as you discovered.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of cool little walks. They're all like 1 to 4 kilometer walks all throughout the park, so very accessible for your everyday tourist. And then end of July, another gap that I had to plug in, so Sullivan Rock to Garinger Creek. Did that one on my own on a perfect winter's weekend. Again,
I think you liked it more than I did.
I did. You said, I don't know, you just infer that it is like perpetually burnt, and the whole area is. They do lots of prescribed burns around there, but actually on trail there was only a couple of areas that were noticeably burnt. The rest were pretty, not spectacular, but it was nice for us to walk through.
I guess my thing was that they said it was like some of the nicest Wandoo Creek systems, and I felt the trail didn't embrace that element as much.
Yeah, I don't have the guidebooks, so I feel like I don't have a base to go off like you do. So whatever I'm experiencing, it's like, cool, that's what's here. I'm not being promised stuff that isn't there.
Yeah.
So yeah, after that I did the Ship Road Walk, which is one of the Shire Kalamunda ones. Again, really cool atmospheric conditions. Really enjoyed that, but it is one of the better walks in the area if you want to see wildflowers and also water. Also did Marrying Up Falls with Aaron on the way to a maintenance trip out on the Bib, and that was, I think, almost peak time to do that in late winter. The wildflowers are just coming out, the water's flowing. That one's just out of Dwelling Up. Really cool hike. And then I finished winter by almost completing Walpole to Denmark. I got all the way to Parry's Beach before I had to leave the track because Parry's Inlet was just uncrossable by foot.
Because they just opened it like days before.
A few days before. I suppose I could have risked it and done it, but then I heard stories of a four-wheel drive sunk to the roof in the quicksand there. I was like, it's probably the better decision to make.
Yeah, and apparently there were sharks as well.
Yeah, I'd read that as well. I was like, I don't really want to wrestle a shark halfway through. So, yeah, and it was a really hot day. The last 2 days of that trip were just unpleasantly warm. I think it was 28 or 29 when I finished in Denmark that day. But yeah, that was really, really enjoyable section. I can see why you rave about it, but there are parts to it that I don't agree with you that are enjoyable.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was winter. That was a lot. I think it was about 370 kilometers worth of walking, which doesn't sound too much when you average it out over months, but a lot of that I was working and at home.
Yeah.
So I guess you'd better start with your spring, seeing as how it wasn't. You still went out, but you didn't do a lot of write-ups for the website.
Yeah, I guess so. It started out pretty strong. We tried in September to do a fair bit of stuff. So we did Bickley Brook to Lions Lookout Walk GPS, which links the two smaller loops together, and that was fine. I had the opportunity because of the Queen's birthday in Victoria to go and do something. So I thought
that's right.
Yeah, because what normally happens is Alyssa doesn't work Mondays, so we can always have a long weekend. But this one fell on like a Thursday or a Friday or something like that. Or I'm not sure how it lined up, but it basically lined up weirdly. And as a result, I ended up having a weekend without Alyssa to do something. So I just went, okay, well, I'll make use of it. And I went to Fitzgerald River again and finished off the other two trails I haven't done on the west side. So that was West Mount Barron and the Point Anne Heritage Trail. Both of them were awesome. I mean, the Point Anne is very short, but I think it's a perfect walk in a lot of ways. And then on the way back, I went to Dryandra Woodlands and did the Kawana and Oka Trail there. And that was, again, really nice. I think the Oka Trail in particular is, I think, the best walk I've done there. Like, the Worley Walk is considered the top trail of the area. Disagree. The Oka Trail was better. And then we finished off that weekend. We went to Le Sio National Park and did the new Ued Pona Trail.
Yeah.
And that's probably, after the Le Grand Coastal Trail, my second favorite WA trail this year.
Okay.
It was spectacular. I think that they have done a really good job. So in Western Australia, we don't have the mountains. We don't have a lot of the other stuff, but we have wildflowers. We have, and we do have a bit of, in that area there's the flat top mesas and stuff. And I think this trail made the most of what was there and really just blew me away, because the wildflowers at Le Sio, when I went previously, I wasn't that excited by them. I think the Le Sio Trail, which is a top trail, isn't that good. But this, on the other hand, just was like, this is just amazing. I think if you want to see what WA can offer, then this is the place to go and see it, because the wildflowers there were some of the best I've ever seen. And the trail is engaging, it's interesting, it has a lot of Aboriginal like history and like mythology and dreaming stories on display. Talks about the seasons. Yeah, it to me had a lot of really good points. Then after that, so that was September, things just went a little bit nuts. I got sent on a business trip to Darwin, and I did some of the walks that you did in Litchfield, and Litchfield was awesome.
Hot though.
God damn, was it hot. We had to leave early because I wanted to do 3 walks. I did 2 because I couldn't take the heat anymore. And that was including, going for a swim at Wangi Falls and Tej. I'm not sure how to say this. Jataba Falls?
I call it Jataba.
Jataba?
I think the T's silent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was a very good walk, and that was your recommendation, so it was good. And then, like 2 weeks later, I had a business trip to New Zealand. And then I did the Rangitoto Summit Track, which is an extinct volcano just off the coast. That was pretty nice, but it was, again, very hot, uncharacteristically for Auckland. And then I spent the rest of the month just doing training hikes, because I realized just how much WA, I felt more than ever how little there are, the trail supply of trails of a decent length and of decent difficulty just don't exist without redoing things. So like we did a lot of, like doing Kitty's Gorge or doing the Monadnocks. We did both of them. And all of it was basically because there was nothing new for me to write up that was of like more than 10Ks other than walk GPS walks. And I find with walk GPS walks, you're not really getting the fitness out of it because you're walking so slowly.
Yeah.
So because of that, we just ended up repeating stuff. And that kept basically until the end of springtime. So it was probably my least exciting spring as a result. And yeah, it made me realize just how little there is to do in Perth now. And I guess that's not something an average person will experience, because maybe just doing Kitty's Gorge and Eagle View is enough for them. But if you're like us, it's probably a bit of a challenge.
Yeah. No, I understand that one completely.
Yeah. So tell us about your springtime.
My springtime was much of the same. So started off... wildflower season obviously hits Perth, and one of the best places, ironically, to see it is actually in the middle of the city at Kings Park. So Karis wanted to go see the everlastings that were there. So I thought, good, we'll take the dogs, we'll go do a walk. So we did the Law Walk, which is always one of the urban list top walks you can do in Perth, which take that as you will. And then more Bibbulmun, so Gringer Creek to Dwellingup, which was a section I had scheduled to do like 5 or 6 times in the past, and it always had something happen that I never quite got there. But I'm actually really glad that I did it this time, because the wildflowers were spectacular all throughout that section. Yeah, so then that was one last gap to plug before I then finished. My plan was always to do Northcliffe to Albany as one, not continuous stretch, but like to finish the Bibbulmun, and that's what I wanted to do. So end up being Parry's Beach to Albany was going to be my finish. So that was, yeah, it was a fun way to finish, but not as I expected. I expected to be a bit emotional going into Albany, but I was kind of a little annoyed that day. But
Why's that, Mark?
Various things that went into that day. So the ending is not fantastic going into Albany with all the pavement walking.
Yeah.
And then the woman I got at the the visitor centre telling me I couldn't ring the bell because it's only for people who do it in one go.
That sounds like BS to me, I think.
Yeah. But in terms of the hiking, that is spectacular, that section. I reckon William Bay to Denmark is probably one of the most complete days on the whole track in terms of getting everything. And then the second half of Denmark to Albany I really enjoyed. Just some of the most iconic places on the track. So you get the wind farm, you get the beaches, Snakes, West Cape Howe. It's, yeah, really enjoyed that. So I finished, and then I didn't want to just finish and then drive straight home because I felt that would be a little bit anticlimactic. So I gave myself a few days in Albany afterwards. And then I'd really just planned to do nothing, but like you've been hiking for 5 days doing 20 to 30 Ks a day. So I ended up doing a big loop from my accommodation, doing Mount Adelaide, which I'd not done, near the Anzac Centre, and then Ellen Cove back to Albany, which is a walk I'd always planned to do, but logistically it's a bit hard if you've got a car. So this way it was perfect, and that was a fantastic walk that I think needs to be advertised a little bit more, especially King Point or Point King Lighthouse. I always get that mixed up. Really cool abandoned building right on the edge of the water. Not many people know about that's there. Yeah. And then I really, really wanted to do Bald Head again, but I didn't have the time and I wasn't sure if my car was going to start back up. So I decided in the afternoon I'd just go out for a little visit and just do the first bit where you get all the cool shots to update the website. And as soon as I was looking at it, it was just that it brought me back to that first time I hiked it and just all that emotion and just like, wow, this is spectacular coastline. And then as the sun was setting, I was like, you know what? Now's the time to redo Peak Head. So I went and did that, which was more of a run than a hike, chasing the sunset. And it's such an amazing spot. Yeah, I'm disappointed I had bad weather the first time I tried to do it, but yeah, great hike. And then on the way home, I continued the theme of reshooting old trails as I did Castle Rock again, which for some reason only took 100 and something photos of the first time, and maybe only a dozen from the forested section. So with my new regime of taking photos unnecessarily every 2 seconds, it now looks as you would expect it to look.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a bit of a theme going for the second half of the year, was kind of finishing off trails and then also redoing them for the website. So yeah, pretty action-packed spring, and I can now say I'm a Billman end-to-ender.
Hey, awesome. Have you got your patch yet?
I have.
Is that what you're talking about, having to sort out your patches?
Yes, I haven't put it on my pack yet, but it's there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's a great patch, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice and simple, but lets everyone know you're an end-to-ender.
Yeah.
So summer.
Yeah. So 1 month.
1 month of summer, but you packed quite a fair amount into it.
I sure did. First of all, we'd always planned at the end of the year we were going to go to New Zealand, and this was to do 2 trails. So first of all, I picked one, and Alyssa picked the other. The one that I picked was the Tongariro Northern Circuit, and this is because of Mount Doom, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So it's one that I guess I wouldn't say so much a little Donny, but a teenage Donny.
A Lord of the Rings Donny.
Yeah, said that I really, I was going to do it one day. And so that was my pick. And Alyssa didn't want to do something alpine after doing that one alpine walk. So, and she loves coastal walks. So we picked the Abel Tasman Coastal Trail, coastal track, I should say.
Yeah.
It's tramping and tracks. But then before that, work comically sent me to New Zealand less than a week before my holiday. So while I was there for the weekend, I did the Karioi track, which is in Raglan near Hamilton, where I was doing some work. And it was a great, very difficult hike. There was like chains at one point. There was a point where I had to pull myself up roots to get up. And it was a really good walk. I said that it would be a walk that I think if it was in Western Australia, it would be like one of the top 10 walks in WA. And yet over there, it's like in an area that, the locals all say, oh, there's nothing to do in Hamilton. And I respectfully disagree, because there was actually quite a lot to do nearby compared to parts of Western Australia.
Should all be sent to re-education camps in WA, and,
yeah.
and they'll learn how good they've got
and
it.
Then you shall see. and I should say in Perth, because I think that in Western Australia we've got a lot, but then we're not developed with trails the way that they are over in New Zealand, where everywhere there's something to do. So yeah, December ended up being probably the most epic month, because we did 2 multi-day walks, and two of them being they're great walks. So we did the Abel Tasman Coast track over Christmas, and that was really good. I think I'll put it this way, that I think as a coastal walk, it's one of the best that I've done in terms of the quality of the walking. And if you like rainforest and coast and like just go between the two, then I think this is the walk for you. Yeah, really fantastic. But I will say that coming from Western Australia, that their beaches aren't as good. But it's beautiful in its own way, and I think that the trail itself and the quality of the huts, really, I think I'm heading in your direction, Mark, in that I think while these are public huts, compared to what we have in Australia, Tasmanian stuff are gluts, in that they've got mattresses, they're comfortable, they're quite big structures, some of them anyway. This is what we should be doing, I think.
But you've mentioned this before, though. I think it was on the Dream Bib one. Is the huts or shelters on the Bib are actually suited to the climate, whereas New Zealand, I don't think you could get away with that.
That's right. Yeah, but I think on a great walk type trail. So I think in Tassie, like the Overland could do with mattresses. I think that Frenchman's Cap could do with mattresses. I actually realized as a result of this trip that there's sort of a medium ground that I think is the crappy answer, which is I think I'd rather tent and bring my own mat
Yeah.
than stay in a crappy, cramped hut that doesn't have mattresses or is uncomfortable and there's no space. Or I'd rather go the other extreme. I think you either, go for a glut,
Yeah.
or you just have a tent set up.
Yeah.
I think that's probably better.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because like if you put 4 walls on something and it's not of good quality, it feels a lot worse than just being out in the open, especially when you're out hiking and camping, is you want that experience with nature, and if what you're getting is like a cramped shed, yeah, no thanks.
Yep. So I think Christmas Day was probably our nicest day of hiking this year, because we did a section of the Abel Tasman where if you go and take a side trip, you go to a cafe, and we were able to eat like a nice meal on the track.
Yeah.
And then, with a lot of these side trips, there's like a penalty you have to pay, right? You have to walk back up the track. No, this is a shortcut to the hut as well. So that Alyssa said that's her favorite day of hiking ever. But I think we saved the best for last. So we did the Tongariro Northern Circuit, and we were very lucky. The weather on the middle 2 days, which are probably the ones where you want to have the best visibility, were outstanding. And the last day of 2019 was doing the section of the Tongariro Northern Circuit that runs concurrently with the Tongariro Alpine Crossing, which is considered the best day walk in New Zealand. And I agree. It was absolutely spectacular. Not easy. There's an 800-meter vertical ascent, but the view from the top of Red Crater, you see all these blue lakes, you see these like sulfur clouds coming out of the mountain smoking. It's an iconic view, and it was probably the best day of walking of the entire year. But after that, we went to a hut that slept 28, but there's 40 people using the hut because the campers don't have their own facilities. So that was the day that made me realize how poor an outcome it is to have a cramped hut, because I felt like we didn't know what to do. But yeah, that was our year.
I have to ask, on your last day of hiking, did Alyssa get sick of you making Lord of the Rings comments?
No, she didn't. Actually, we always joke that it's not a multi-day hike. Alyssa doesn't cry at some point, and she didn't. Like, she actually said, she loved Abel Tasman. No tears. We finished the Tongariro again, no tears.
Yeah.
And she said the day of the crossing, which is considered a hard day, and people are like, oh, you're going to find it challenging. She said it wasn't that bad, mainly because she did Frenchman's last year, and that was so much harder. So yeah, it was. I think both of them were great, and Alyssa and I have said that we'll probably go back another 3 or 4 times, I think, to do a similar holiday where we do 2 weeks, do 2 trails, and do some road tripping.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
My summer was not quite as epic. So after finishing the bib, I literally did nothing. I just had a lot to write up. That's the thing with doing so many trails in such a short time, and especially the way I've been going just recently is taking 1,000+ photos a day. I'm then writing 4,000 or 5,000 words per post. It becomes a little bit too much, so I took a break. And the only hiking I did to end the year was went to Dalesford in Victoria for Christmas for Karis's family. And I only really planned on getting out one day because we only had 5 days there. And that turned into, I think I've got 5 trails to write up for the website.
Yeah.
Most of them just Karis suggesting, let's go here. So I was like, yeah, why not? And as you'll find out in the second of the posts, probably the most stylish way I've ever gotten to a hike.
Ah, yes.
I got to borrow Uncle Hal's Jag XKR, which was very pleasant to drive, but also very nerve-wracking because it's an expensive car. It's not mine, and the time of day I did it was very early morning, so I was dodging rabbits and kangaroos, and to say my heart rate was probably higher a few points on the drive than it was actually on the trail.
Did you wear like really wanker sunglasses while driving as well?
No, just my usual wanker aviators. But yeah, it was quite funny. One of the hikes we did was Mount Franklin, which is just outside of Daylesford, and it's an extinct volcano crater which has some sad history to it, but in the middle of the crater is actually a car camping spot. So we rolled up the mountain. Luckily, we weren't the only wanker there because there was a Range Rover drove in before us. But pulled up in this Jag. Like, the only spot I could really see that wouldn't annoy anyone who was camping there was in the middle where everyone can see you. So I just kind of parked up the Jag. I wasn't really in hiking gear. I think I was in you just assume like leisure wear would probably be the best term for it. Had my aviators on, did the old beep beep, the car went like and all the mirrors went in, and then I was just like, yeah. How you going, plebs? And then I got a good stare down from a guy as we were leaving. I gave it a bit of a bootful just to hear the V8, but it was a good trip to end. Victoria is very dry at that time of year, so you have to pick where you go. But it wasn't too bad.
And no fires. So.
No fires. It got a little hazy on the end of the trip, but luckily that area escaped all the major blazes.
I should say that my last night of 2019, we had a view of one of the mountains and what we thought was a blood moon. But it was actually the haze from Australia heading to New Zealand, and it made the sun look like a moon. Absolutely bizarre. Crazy.
Well, that could happen soon. They're saying that the haze will actually circle around the Earth and it'll hit WA
yes,
now.
I know.
Which will just be like... Although we're fairly used to it in WA, they like to smoke us out most of the year with their prescribed burns. So that was 2019. All in one long nutshell.
Yeah. I mean, a good year, I think, but not my best year. I would have liked to have probably done a bit more in the springtime, but, life got in the way, and, the lack of trail supply in Perth also got in the way.
Yeah.
How do you rate this year compared to other years?
I don't know. I still reckon 2018 was my most epic, but that was mainly due to going on a couple of trips I didn't really plan. So Fitzgerald River, doing all the trails there, and then Carragini and Millstream. Three Capes, Tassie, a couple of sections of the Bibbulmun. It was just kind of a very varied year, whereas this year was, I did go to Darwin and Victoria, but it was kind of like a very Bibbulmun heavy year. And one of the promises I made to Karis was, because I was taking week-long trips at a time, or like taking entire weekends, is I'd leave weekends free that I wasn't on. So I wasn't really going on many day hikes. So I think 2020 will be the year that I rediscover day hiking in WA. Should probably move us on to 2020 plans. What have you got on the cards so far?
Oh, okay. So things that I know we'll be doing is we're definitely going to Ningaloo, which is not a hiking thing, but I haven't done any snorkeling for a year now. Well, almost a year, because I think we did some in March last year, but this summer I haven't. So I'm really looking forward to going back up there. And we did it because Alyssa, that was probably her favorite holiday, was the trip that we did up there. And so, but we're going back in whale shark season, so that's pretty exciting. Maybe I might do some stuff in Cape Range area, but I've done all the trails, so it's not really a hiking holiday. Then in June, you and I have talked about doing something.
We have. That's very exciting.
So we've not really made concrete plans. We're going to talk about this after this, but stay tuned. I think that will be a fun trip. And then in July, I have booked to do the Thorsby Trail, which I'd booked 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was unemployed for a stretch before doing the Thorsby Trail, and I had to cancel. So I have this like paranoia that something will happen and we won't get to do it, but I really want to do the Thorsby Trail. So that's the big sort of July holiday hike. And then at the end of the year, second half, we've not really made any concrete plans. There's talk about maybe we might go to Hawaii and do some hiking there. Maybe we might go back to somewhere over in Australia on the east coast, but not really made any concrete plans just as of yet. I think last year, I probably started the year with like, oh, we're going to do all these things, and it didn't happen. And then places have been burnt and might still be burnt in the next few months. So I don't want to jump the gun there and say, oh, we're going to go and do this walk, and then it's completely gone. So yes, that's my year so far. So basically, I've got half a year planned, and then I don't know after that. How about you?
I don't have any concrete dates or anything. It's more kind of I want to do this area. So, I mean, we were also going to do a Ningaloo trip, but that's up in the air now because Karis's job is, an issue. So that was going to be a late March Easter thing. But that'll probably get scrapped. Got our June adventure that we're going to go on. I want to get out to Dryandra this year.
Awesome.
Do a couple of trips out there. Shannon National Park. I said this year I'm doing Shannon National Park. So
Yep.
I'll get out there. The Cape to Cape I'm doing sometime in spring. So I'm going to go back and do the full 7-day thing. I always get, when someone looks at my Cape to Cape page, I'm like, oh my God, it's not embarrassing because it was out of my control, but yeah, it's like they're so poor in quality compared to like a modern post that I do.
Yep.
I think that's what 2020 will be, is it'll go back and fixing up posts that I did early on. Photos aren't fantastic. I don't have a lot of them, and I just want to redo them. Like Bold Park, I didn't take many photos, so I'm going to do that one time this summer. There's a whole load of little trails that I haven't really spent a lot of time on that I'd like to do, kind of just spending a whole day out in the hills just hiking those little ones. Yeah, and just reconnecting with trails. So I haven't been to Kitty's Gorge in like 3.5 years.
Probably like when we went?
Yeah, that group hike that I did.
Yeah.
Because I redid the page the other day and I don't have any photos from 2016 onwards. So Kitty's Gorge I'll do in the spring with flowers. Eagle View I've not done in 2 years. A lot of the trails in Perth I've only done a couple of times, and I just really want to just hike for fun.
You said that last year.
I did, and then Karis made me promise not to go out hiking a whole lot. So yeah, that's going to be my plans. Hopefully I might get to Tassie or over east. So yeah, there's talk about going to Port Douglas maybe for a family holiday. And then I'll finish the year cruising around Indonesia. So
very cool.
Maybe there might be some hikes there. I'm not entirely sure, but I doubt it. We'll see.
At this stage, I'm actually planning to spend Christmas at home.
Whoa.
Because if you look at the blog, you'll see that I think I haven't been home since 2015 for Christmas. So we're thinking once every 5 years is probably a good time to come home.
I'm sure your family will be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, but that being said, my parents go away every year. So they've, I guess, given me permission in a sense to not be home. But I feel, we feel like this is probably a year.
Yeah. I think you get away with it a lot more because you don't have like nieces and nephews and like kids running around, where I think kids is a big Christmas thing and people want to be home. So yeah, hopefully you have a lovely boozy Christmas with the family.
Who knows? This might change. We might go, damn it, we should go do something.
Yeah, let's escape the family. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to do with this pod as well, we did it last year, is we put the feelers out for some questions, and I did again this year and not many came back. So I'll have 3 questions. One's a repeat from last year, and then the other 2 have just come in, and kind of generic questions as well. The first one from last year, favourite hour on the track. Any trail, but favourite hour.
Okay, so two, because I'm really crappy at picking one. I'd say probably the hour of walking the Cape Legrand Coastal Trail from between Thistle Cove and Hellfire Bay. Some of the best coastal walking I've ever done anywhere in Australia or in New Zealand. That to me was like a moment of like, oh, there are some really great trails here to do in Western Australia. And then the other one would be the hour from near the top of Red Crater on the Tongariro Northern Circuit, because just that the lead up, was this crazy ascent, and then the views from the top where the payoff was there, and then coming back down and being right next to some of those lakes. Yeah, outstanding. How about you?
I don't know. I have so many this year. I mean, I say I didn't really do much, but there was a lot of like wow moments. Like, this is why we hike. But for two, for me, the first one would probably have to be Peak Head. So spur of the moment decision to go out and do this one. Sun was setting. It was just one of those things that the lighting was just perfect. So the sun was setting as you were looking into the trail, but you still had the sunlight cascading over, the way that kind of it dips down and then goes back up to the granite dome. And that I was just could not get enough photographs on, while also trying to get to the top of the granite dome in time. And then when I got there, it was just pinks and magentas and then the golden glow of the sunset, and I got to watch the sunset over West Cape Howe, which is where I'd been a few days earlier. And it kind of, I don't know, I just sat there and it dawned on me what I'd just done with finishing the Billman. I didn't really quite process it on that final day, but sitting on top of Peak Head with West Cape Howe visible in the distance, it kind of like, yeah, I'm done now.
Yeah.
So that was a cool hour. And then the second hour, I don't know, it's kind of a toss-up between day 2 on the Bay of Fires, where you first hit the actual Bay of Fires conservation area, and you see all the rocks with the orange lichen and the white sand. You're like, I'm here, I'm at Bay of Fires. And it was a beautiful sunny day, and we went to visit the lighthouse there, and then coming back, it was just a really nice stretch of hard sand to walk on, and I took my boots off, and just it was just heaven. Like, just going at your own pace. I think I put I Still Call Australia Home by the Qantas Choir on. It just felt like one of those moments where, like, this is Australia and I'm proud to be Australian. Either that or the first hour of walking the Golden Helena Trail, where you start at the Golden Lookout and it's all misty and moody. You go through the forest and then you hit Mundaring Weir, and you can just see the fog and the mist just rolling up the lake and then crashing into the dam wall. That was pretty special, and there was no one about, like literally no one about. So that was cool.
A rarity.
They're all voting. So the second question was favorite trail of the year.
I think it would again be Legrand Coastal Trail, and I don't know, Tongariro or Abel Tasman could easily be there, because I think they're different. I think Tongariro was more epic, but I'll put it this way. So the temperatures in the Abel Tasman area were basically low 20s. It was sunny every day. It was like a beach holiday, because you finish by like 1 o'clock at the latest. So you have so much time to just enjoy. And coming from hot Western Australia, I never knew I could love a beach holiday the way that I did. So, in terms of pure enjoyment, I think Abel Tasman was more enjoyable than Tongariro.
Yeah.
But Tongariro was more like, holy crap, this is unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So somewhere between those three is like, yeah, the best trail.
I would have to say I'll pick a specific day, because I can't just pick a week-long section of the bib, because that's unfair. So I'll go Giants to Rame Head as my best trail. simply because it's such a varied day. Like you start off in the Tingle and Karri forest, and it's beautiful for 3 or 4 kilometers, and then you get to that transition period, and you see the ocean, even though you just seen it a couple of days ago.
Yep.
Yeah, and then obviously Conspicuous Beach is just fantastic. I had a really, really perfect day when I was there, and then up to Conspicuous Cliff was just fantastic. And then finishing at Rame Head, beautiful sunset. I had a mama and a Joey join me at camp, who weren't really scared. They were just observant. It was a beautiful, and then they got a great sky as well for the Milky Way.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say that's best trail day of the year.
Awesome.
And then the last question, we've brushed on this earlier, is what do you think the environmental impact of these fires and just climate change in general going forward will mean for hiking?
So I think people have probably picked up from what I've said elsewhere on the pod what my political views are. But I'll go back to what I said at my birthday party last year.
Which was on election day. This was right after the Liberal government got voted in.
Yeah. How good is Australia?
Go to Hawaii instead.
And I said to everyone, that's right, go to Hawaii instead. I said to everyone at the party, I said, thank you for coming. I advise you all to just go out now, go and see everything before it's gone. And my words were prophetic.
They were, actually.
Because, like, literally, Kangaroo Island, I wanted to go. Gone. If you wanted...
Gross Valley,
Gross Valley.
Gone.
Yeah, Green Gully, gone. Really, I mean this, like, I am serious. We could say that I'm being flippant about it, but I really think go and see these places as soon as you can. Particularly, go and see places that are alpine areas that are not fire resistant. Our friend Bonnie was saying, I don't know how to decide what trail to do between doing Great Ocean Walk and doing Walls of Jerusalem. I was like, no, it's easy. Go do Walls of Jerusalem. Go see Dixon's Kingdom now while the pencil pines are still there. Go and do it, because we're seeing the effects of our lack of action, and the places that are special to us, that are probably more on the Gondwanan side of beautiful. I think that maybe Pilbara, Kimberley, those places are okay.
Yeah.
But seriously, go see alpine things now, because they will not be there for very much longer. So that's my slightly morbid advice, but yeah, go do it.
Yeah, much of the same. I was nodding along when you was saying this at your birthday. I was like, Don's fired up. I was like, he's actually telling the truth. And it's come through. But it doesn't also, it's not all on climate change. There's also the ineffectiveness of all of the governments around Australia, so state, federal, to value anything that is environmental. Like, we just see it as an asset. So we go in and we log it and we exploit it. And we don't spend money trying to preserve it. Like, we had firefighters from the US raring to go. We had water bombers raring to go, and they don't get called up. Like, it's ridiculous that these things happen, and then it's all business as usual afterwards. And while it's going on, no one's allowed to say anything or cast any blame, whereas blame is there to be cast.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's okay to cast blame if you're blaming it on the greenies who have no
Greens.
power.
Oh my God.
Like that's the thing. Is like it's the non. Oh, don't make it political, but we're going to make it political.
Yeah. Let's bash the only party that actually has a policy on prescribed burning that is sensible. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to that day, because the last year in review episode we talked about climate change and the effects it will have on the landscape, and what we said rings true 100% now. And yeah, the Labor government, I mean, it was a promise, but how much of a reality it would have been is Bill Shorten announced that they were going to inject X amount of millions of dollars into a water bombing fleet, which would have been super handy 3 months ago. But we just don't have that. I think Australia needs to get its act together. Instead of spending money on submarines and fighter jets, is spend money actually protecting where people live and people's everyday lives, rather than some existential threat that will probably never happen.
And I think we're in a country because of the eucalyptus, which is a very pyrogenic tree.
It's a jerk tree. Its entire existence is to drop oil and burn everything below it.
Yeah. We live in an area that's uniquely prone to fire. And, I think that compared to New Zealand where, yes, they do have some fires, but mostly they have excessive amounts of rain where they're going to have like avalanches and stuff like that. Is more the problem. We are going to lose out on our market share of tourism. So putting it into economic terms that economic rationalists can understand, this is exactly, these are things that are assets of value. People come to Australia to see the wilderness, and I was looking at a CSIRO report which said that climate change for the north of Australia, that sort of deserty areas, not so much of a problem. But certainly for the southwest of Western Australia, and anything that's Gondwanan is going to suffer. And I love the Gondwanan rainforest. It's to me the most beautiful landscape imaginable, and to see it die just breaks my heart. For it to be replaced by eucalypt forest, some people might say, oh well, it's just sign of the times, but to see something that has survived from when dinosaurs were around, for it to see it go, it's upsetting to me.
Especially when it's preventable. Like, yes, over millions of years it will probably go, but in a human lifetime, we shouldn't be eradicating this sort of stuff. And that's what's really sad. And the whole argument of it'll grow back, it's the Australian bush, like, yes, certain species will grow back, like grass trees absolutely love fire, but we're just losing so much biodiversity with these fires because they burn hot, and then, species that exist in one tiny pocket, if that gets lit on fire at a very hot temperature, it's not coming back. And same with like spiders and insects and lizards, small lizards, like they're not going to go anywhere in a fire. They can't outrun that. So it's really sad, and especially the Stirling Range fires that have just happened. Very dry climate. We had a fair few days in the 40s before that happened, and then a lightning strike came along, and that's it, part gone, which is very sad considering there was a fire there last year that was completely avoidable, because that area does not survive well being burnt so close. And
what a great job that reduction in fuel load did.
Yeah, did not stop that burn one bit. It's just a sign of the times. Like, I don't think this is a business as usual once everything's gone. I think this needs to be a mark in the sand to say no more. Like, we need action from this, and I really hope it does come. But half of me is now a cynical 30-something-year-old who will probably never. This will be the end, the beginning of the end. So in my lifetime, I'll be one of those old men saying, back in my day, we had so-and-so, like people are now that, snorkeled the Great Barrier Reef and dove on there, and you could count how many, fish you'd see in 2 seconds on, 2 hands, and now you barely see anything.
Yep.
So yeah, it's really sad to see what's going on, but it also is heartening to see the world react and put us under the microscope, because that's what we'll need to get change.
Yep. And I think that we are going to see a coalition. I'm hoping we'll see a coalition of not just the progressive left, but I think across the spectrum of people, because I think that's now you can't argue it's not happening.
Yeah.
And I know people are trying, but I'm hoping that this is, if any good comes out of this, that it is a wake up call that says that this is something we need to do something about. Yeah.
A bit of a somber end to the podcast. Hopefully 2020 is a prosperous year for us, but again, let's go out and see everything while we still can.
Yep.
And also get involved, like just be active in, caring for the environment and just giving a damn in general. Don't just be a spectator while things happen.
Yep. Okay, so that was our year in review. Thank you everyone for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode or any other episodes of the series, please let us know by giving us a rating on Podbean, iTunes, or any of the other platforms you're currently listening to us. Ratings really help to get us to reach the audience of people who might find this show interesting. If you had any suggestions for future episodes, you can email us at realtrailtalk@gmail.com, or you can contact us through our social media pages. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.